crashing to you so you can fall back on me. Give and take my mistakes, I learn fast, there's no need to hesitate. So crash into me and I'll wash over you. There's something new in the way you move, like you've got something to prove. So bend over, see my reflection. My temper's from our generation. I work hard and baby, did I mention I win? Now can't you see I adore you? Stand up and let me applaud you. Come close and let me explore you. I win. No, don't let go when it stops. Turn the lights back on, 'cause I feel it there when you stare. Look in my direction. Oh, bend over, see my reflection. My temper's from our generation. I work hard and baby, did I mention I win? I know it will take some time to see if it's me you wanna be living with. Hey, so I'll promise you when we're through, there will be no other place you exist. Hey, so come and talk to me, my friend, 'cause I am starting to pretend that I'm losing interest. Hey, and you know that when I'm through, I will not come back for you, and that's my solemn promise, baby. Hey, so bend over, see my reflection. My temper's from our generation. I work hard and baby, did I mention I win? Now can't you see I adore you? Stand up and let me applaud you. Come close and let me explore you. I win. No, don't let go when it stops. Turn the lights back on, 'cause I feel it there when you stare. Look in my direction. No, bend over, see my reflection. My temper's from our generation. I work hard and baby, did I mention I win? Bend over, see my reflection. My temper's from our generation. I work hard and baby, did I mention I win? Bend over, see my reflection. My temper's from our generation. I work hard and baby, did I mention I always win?
Hey everyone, welcome to the first spotlight feature on Neck of the Woods. Today we have got Lauren Walton. How you doing?
Hi, very good, thank you. How are you?
Awesome. Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Not too bad. We were just having a laugh about this like gap of clarity through this really bad green screen.
Very spiritual. It's very religious. Virgin Mary vibes only.
Awesome. Yeah. So, thank you for coming on, man. This is great. It's really cool. The first one. You're making history.
I didn't know that until you just said that, and I'm really honoured. Like, I'm going to walk around strutting today. Like, I was the first one on Neck of the Woods.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got two tracks. You would have just heard the first one, and the second one will come after this. I haven't actually heard them yet because we're recording this meeting before. So this is going to be exciting. I'm going to get to see this as everyone else sees it. So that's cool. So I've got a few questions for you. Not too many strenuous ones. Just wanted to ask, is there an artist or a moment in your life that kind of cemented the idea of, I want to write my own music and do that?
Yeah, so I was really tiny and I heard Fast Car by Tracy Chapman. And I remember just like melting into that song, and I learnt it word for word, performed it in my room like nobody's business. And that was when I was like, oh my God, like I want to be able to do that. What if I could say things like that and articulate myself in that way? That was the first song that really just sparked something in me, that I was like, really cliched song, but it just came on in my parents' house and I was like, oh my gosh. That is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard, and I want to do that.
Yeah, it's about like you said about like trying to, can I say something like that? Can I put something across. I think that's
I think when you're quite small and things start to resonate with you and you don't fully know why or for what purpose, because you're just a tiny human, and your brain does go, maybe I could do something like that. I've got no idea how, but maybe I could do that.
Because you see like kids all the time, like, I want to be a firefighter or an astronaut. They just see something, they're like, that's cool, I want to do that. Yeah, I did say astronaut. Like they just think like this is a cool thing, and I like what that is. They don't, as you said, they're young, so you don't understand all the ins and outs and the years of dedication this will take. But so it's as you're so impressionable at that age, I think it's actually quite a unique little moment where you're actually able to identify something that you like and just go with it without worrying about anything else.
Yeah, because you're so unaware of what would go into it or what that role entails.
And how it could go wrong.
And it did. I'm joking, no, touch wood. But it's a beautiful thing. And I think I spent most of my young years, I think like all other musicians, you mimic for like the first few rounds. So I
still am.
Okay. But I think I remember I went through loads of different phases. Jessie J was a strong one. Don't really know why, but that was a strong one. I did like Joni Mitchell sort of phases, and you're just regurgitating what you want to be able to do.
Yeah, you're finding all the influences that make you what you want. Because there's a quote, I can't remember who said this. I saw it quite a while ago, but it was, unique and innovative music is just ripping off as many people at once, because at that point it's not ripping off anyone.
No, see, I think I'm nearly at that point. I think I've gone from being really, really pop focused to really folk focused. I got into loads and loads of the tracks that were kind of coming out. I think like the North London sort of scene. I ended up falling madly in love with Little Sims when I was about 18, 19. And then this whole kind of hip hop R&B thing took over what was also folk and pop, and then start to sound like everybody that you love.
You get this middle ground.
And it's obviously, I think no music is usually it's completely individual. Like I'm pretty sure you'll listen to the two songs that I'm going to give and go, oh, okay, well I can see that she probably really likes Christina and the Queens, bit of Lorde. You can still hear a little bit of Joni Mitchell in that. With Bend Over, you can see a lot of the influence like Steph London or like Little Sims. So it's not hard to put somebody with their influences, but I think
and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing to put someone with their influences, because at the end of the day they were important to you. So you want to be in that conversation and bracket with those people. Obviously there's a line, isn't there? There's a line when you're just copying.
And I think most people that we're all around have got that beautiful component of there's their influences, but I can tell that that's them. And that's their own version, that's their own story, that's their own way of working.
Absolutely.
Because I think it's when I used to do open mics or something, I'd be that girl that would try and I'd sing a really acoustic version of Wonderwall, trying to put meaning behind it, which made no sense. And you could tell that I wanted to be a bit like Birdie or, a little bit like, whoever it was at the time. So I think when you get older, you fall into your own.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also an argument to say there are certain points in your life where you're not ready to hear something, and then a few years passes, then you hear a certain artist and you're like, damn, I love this.
And I think it's also as your life changes, as I was going through different things, I was then being drawn to different types of music that represented who I felt that I was at that time. So obviously just because your life is changing, everything else around it will change. Music taste kind of reflects how you're feeling. I personally believe for myself. So depending on what mood I'm in or what state of mind or whatever set of circumstances are happening, I'm going to change drastically what I'm listening to, and therefore then what I'm writing or what I'm trying to say.
It's and it's that that inspiration you get from something new, like a new artist or a new song, and you're like, oh, mate, and then you start writing songs that incorporate that little bit that's in that chorus of that song, and then you're like, oh, this has filled a gap in what maybe there was a gap maybe in what I was writing, and now I've managed to fill that with something.
I remember I heard It's by Christina and the Queens. I had heard it before, but I probably listened to it when I was in my first year, and it's I've got it, I'm a man now, and I was like, oh, and there was just something about that phrase that I was like, oh my god. And then that's what led to a couple of the newer tracks, just that line, just that set of imagery, and I was like, oh my god, that really speaks to me.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna run with that as an idea. Obviously take it into my own, not rip the poor woman off, but like, you know, kind of do something with it.
Yeah, of course. And if what you're writing, if your lyrics resonate with you and you care about them, then that's like half of the battle, isn't it? Because if you don't write anything and you're like, this doesn't really mean much, like, what are you doing? What's the point in that? Because
Yeah.
like you said earlier, like, it's about, can I say something like Birdie or whoever you were talking about, is, can I say something like that, but that's come from me? That's the point, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we kind of talked about this. I was just going to ask about your influences and how would you describe your music now? And we've kind of touched on that with all these little things, but any other artists that you're really influenced by?
I think like loads of grassroots folk. I was hugely into Hosier. I was raised as a Catholic woman. So when I heard Take Me to Church,
we're talking like we're like 80 years old right
I
now.
was
Like...
Catholic. I went to Catholic school and all that jazz. And I think a lot of artists who touch on religious imagery, for me, I resonate with personally. So when I heard Take Me to Church, and it was obviously promoting like gay rights at the time, very heavily inspired by that. His use of metaphor, kind of almost like, it was like a very biblical way of speaking that I think.
Yeah, no, I remember when that song came out. It wasn't really my sort of thing at the time, because how old that song's quite old now, isn't it?
I think I was like 13, 14.
Yeah, it's a while ago. But yeah, I remember hearing it and I was like, these lyrics are really, you could see stuff and it's powerful. And
it was like little things like giggle at a funeral, and I was like, woof.
Yeah.
Like it's just wow. Sorry, woof. Probably not the best way to describe like a piece of art, woof. But it was just so important to me. And I love like Ben Howard, Bon Iver, you know, those types of artists who would just utilize their words and paint pictures like nobody's business. And I knew that there was so much that I would want to discuss and say, especially when I got into my teen years, but actually by using their type of language and masking some of it was a really nice way of doing it. Whereas artists that I love, like I've mentioned, like Little Sims, Her, Sampa the Great, they're very abrupt. There's not much imagery. What they say is
frank,
what they say. Yeah, there's no like beating around the bush of like, oh, you know, my lover's got humor. There's no metaphors in there. It's just they're saying what they need to say.
Direct,
So I think that I kind of got to a middle ground where I went from being very, very folk and very metaphorical to starting to incorporate some slightly more direct ways of using my words. And sonically, I got very inspired by, I kind of call it art pop. So it is people like Lorde, Charlie XCX, Christina and the Queens, like very well produced sounds.
The Weeknd, maybe?
Yeah, a little bit actually. Yeah. But I think like I just went in very heavily for the female centric sort of artists, just because at the time I was like, oh my God, everything that you're saying is like mirroring me.
Well, so it's something that you can identify with perhaps a bit more because it's coming from often a female perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I love the producer Bleachers. So he works quite closely with Lorde and also Taylor Swift. So he has his own tracks out, and his style of production always has been a very big win for me. Yeah, like I'm really lucky that I worked loads and loads, got really used to using like Ableton and stuff and making my own sounds, and now I do work quite closely with another human being. So that's been quite a nice journey.
A real person.
An actual human. It's not just me alone in this room like pacing, like, oh my God, like there's somebody else pacing with me. So it's quite nice. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So if I said to you, describe maybe the two songs we're looking at today, describe them in 3 words.
Oh my God. So the first one, the first one's called Bend Over. And I'd say it's direct.
Yeah.
It's direct. It's quite argumentative. But it's soft as well. So with all of my songs, I do like to show quite a stark difference. I like to take an idea and take it to the extremity at both ends of a scale.
Yeah.
So it's very rare that I'll be pushing a narrative that is only one-sided. I usually like to mask kind of 2 ways of looking at something into one. So I'd say Bend Over is obviously its name. It is an armed song. It's there to serve a purpose, but it also shows some vulnerability in me as a person, I think. And like a lot of humans, like no one person is either just aggressive or just direct.
There's always two sides, isn't there?
Yeah. So that would be Bend Over. The second song is a song called Insides, which I wrote to sing with a very good friend of mine called Josh Lee. And it's basically about the ways that people only understand or want to consume parts of me that mirror them inside. And so I'd kind of say that one's incredibly raw. That one's very honest and very, very invasive.
Okay.
It's quite a direct look at me and like my relationships and how other people consume other people. Obviously not 100% only for me. I was just making that point of that most humans only want to love the parts of you that mirror themselves inside.
Yeah, so most people are like slightly selfish, I guess. That's kind of the message, right?
Not to be like, I hate people. I'm definitely guilty of that. But it was just an interesting idea. And it's about the ways you put yourself forward into any situation. Yeah. It's that idea that you change yourself time and time again, depending on who you're with. And I'm not like it's an inherently bad thing or that we shouldn't. I was just objectively being like, that's how it was. And I think it's in
observation,
with a kind of relationship that not like entanglement, I was kind of in at that moment, it was becoming incredibly clear that was what was going on. People are multifaceted, but there'll be so many parts of you that somebody just does not want to accept.
Or doesn't want to bother even seeing.
No. I think like that was just definitely what I was getting at. And having Josh's voice on it, I love having that Oh Wonder-esque male and female vocal.
Yeah, it really drives home that two side. Like as a listener, then you're observing the two sides of the conversation.
Yeah, and you're kind of really blatantly being like, this is the male and female narrative together as one. Yeah. Like it's not I'm just now skirting a female-centric ideology. I'm looking at this as like, this is just a human thing. Because it's how I feel. It's definitely how Josh would sometimes, for him not in this conversation, this is how Josh would feel. It's just something that's there. And it's something that I felt obviously really, that I felt was important at that time to express. So,
yeah, I think it's great to really talk about things that are really raw for you and really where you break yourself down completely and there's no like hiding anything. You just put everything into it because that'll be the most satisfying to finish and complete as a piece of music, and they have the most meaning.
It's shocking. Like I think everybody has it when it's your own music, because you do listen back and go, Christ, what did you just say? Why? It's a really like pretty sweet experience, and I think I've grown up writing songs since I was really young. So
when was the first time you wrote a song? Sorry to interject. How old were you, do you reckon, when you first wrote a song?
I would have been so I have DD. So that means that when I write songs, I've disassociated. So I would have probably written my first song. This wasn't like a Clubhouse classic. This would have been a very I kind of know. I took a backing track off of YouTube when I must have been about, not even YouTube, I had like this little thing that made sounds. I pressed a sound, I must have been about 6, and I started to write words and sing them. So that would have been my debut.
That's quite young.
So
debut single.
Yeah, I was like, here we go, boys. Like, and I started singing Bend Over. Like, I didn't do that. It would have been something there. But I did my first, so you know the song A-Team?
Mm-hmm.
A-Team came out. I rewrote the words to A-Team to fit my own personal narrative. And I think that was the tipping point when I started to then go, okay, I'm going to copy Ed Sheeran for a couple of months and I'm going to see where this takes me.
Yeah. The first sort of, I guess, identity kind of.
Yeah, like I remember hearing the word A-Team, and obviously it was about a young woman who was obviously probably in some form of turmoil, about like drug addiction, things like that. I was like, I can wholeheartedly understand what this is. Yeah, I want to express myself, but with those chords, because I'm not a particularly strong instrumentalist, and I never have been. Words are always the easiest part, especially probably a little bit because of the DD. It's the easiest part. Sure. So that's just how I started it. I would literally rip off Ed Sheeran or rip off anybody who was just around at the time, and then I'd start putting my own words to it. Yeah,
I think it's funny you should say that, actually. I remember when I was about like 11, maybe 12, I remember just rewriting words to Green Day songs and stuff, just because I you didn't know how, I didn't know how to write a song. I didn't really know how to like make a melody fit something that I had already, some chords that I just started playing like shapes. And then, yeah, the easiest thing to do was just to change the words and then play the part on the guitar.
Yeah, because obviously you always say those things are a cover. I remember doing it at like different like open mics and stuff when I was like 12 or however old I was at that point, being like, this is a cover of, because obviously I wouldn't come up and play 80 and be like, this is my own song.
B team.
Yeah, here it is. It's the B team. You know, it was quite a good thing. But yeah, the first proper song that I ever wrote, I was about 15. So it was my own chords, it was my own words.
Yeah.
And I can say that I wasn't copying somebody. Because even previous, I was writing songs, but I could easily be like, Lauren, we all know that that's a Birdie song deep down. So I don't really count that. I think it was probably about 15, 16. Yeah. I was like, this is my own. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay. I want to know as well, you've talked about some of your favorite artists and who influenced you, but who would you like really want to collaborate with, or perhaps like support on a tour or something? You can have like 3, go for 3 choices if it's hard.
It's quite hard. I think the first one, and I've said to like a few people, it would always be Lorde, because she's one of the artists that I have genuinely loved for years. I think she's one of the artists that the albums that she's had out, I've consistently adored, and I've been able to kind of mirror a lot of my own stuff through her music quite easily. So the thought of sharing a stage or even sharing a track with her would obviously be incredible. I'm an absolutely massive 1975 fan, absolutely huge. Like, I have a best friend who follows them on world tours. Like, we're insane. They meant the absolute world to me. I remember hearing tracks like Basic, but like Robbers. I loved it when I was younger.
I really liked Robbers when it came out.
Yeah, I mean, like She Lays Down came out and I was like, whoa. And like, he was very open about his problem with drugs and alcohol. I adore Matty Healy's style of writing. So if I got to do like what Bieber Doobie does and sing on a track with Matty Healy, I'd combust. I'd simply like cease to exist.
I've seen those guys a few times, and they're pretty cool, pretty good.
The live shows always make me sob. Like, Sean gets so concerned because I will sob, and I don't cry. I'm not emotional. You play me like Sex by 975, I'm crying. I've gone. I'm out for the count. Nobody can stop me.
It is special when it's in a live setting, though, isn't it? And at the moment, like, we're all just gagging for that, aren't we? So.
And it's like, I think I've been to quite a few artists like, oh my god. So Cherry Wine by Hosier is arguably, I've always said, if you tell me, Lauren, you're going to go deaf in about 4 minutes and you'll never hear anything again, Cherry Wine is the song. Like, it gets to the point where even my closest friends, that song to them is me, because I've intertwined it that closely. When he plays that live, I just can't even explain that feeling.
I think I understand, to honestly. It's that, it's just that overwhelming, like, this makes so much sense to me.
And it's like,
and to feel it live as well is so much more powerful. It's
like, it's one thing like listening, because I listen to that bloody song at least like 2 times a day. It's an illness. But when you see him playing it live, you're like, oh my Christ, like, I'm in his space. And I get really sentimental about that. I'm like, oh my god, he's actually singing it for my ears. And like, it's a really beautiful experience.
For sure.
I'm probably a little bit overly excited, but like,
I don't think there's such thing as overexcited when it comes to talking about music and how much it means to you.
Like, when you guys play Astronaut and I just transcend like through the ceiling, like, I literally lift.
You become one, right? You become an astronaut.
That's like priest for an exorcist, because I'm like hovering above the stage.
Everyone will just think it's part of the stage design and everything.
Mole's pyrotechnics have really popped off. I'm like, literally, I'm on fire.
What image. Awesome. Okay, just a couple more questions. This one's more current base. How have all these lockdowns and being stuck at home, how has that affected you in terms of music? Obviously it's not been great mentally for most people, but we're talking about music here, we don't have to get too deep. Have you felt like you've been forced to learn new skills, or do you feel like you've had like writer's block, or has it been a bit like nothing's changed? How is...
I think it's had really big pros and cons. So I struggled, obviously, like every single human being on this earth, with the lockdowns massively. I obviously had to go back to like my parents' house, where I haven't lived for like years and years and years. Very weird. So I think I saw a lot of my songwriting changing, because I was suddenly writing about an environment that I just wasn't really familiar with anymore.
Sure.
So the songs started to become different because my stimulus was different. I was feeling feelings that I just wasn't used to feeling anymore. I was very, very lucky that with all of the downtime, I shot my shot at so many people that I wanted to work with. Like I was firing it off. And that's where I've met the lovely man that I am now releasing two of my lovely men. The lovely man, the lovely person that I'm releasing two of my songs with. I started working on some backing vocals for his album. He was in a band that I absolutely loved when I was 16. He graduated ACM. Like I was a huge fan of this band. It was called Fox. They have a song called Bubblegum. It's a tune. And I was just like, oh, can I do the BVs on your album? And he was like, oh yeah. And then I just shot my shot, like, look, I make my own music. What do you think? And he was like, oh, I love it. Can I work with you? And I was like, crumbs, yeah, you can. Because pre-lockdown, I wasn't in a position to release anything. I love production with my entire heart, but I wanted somebody else on that ride with me.
It's difficult when you're doing both, the
Yeah.
recording, engineering, producing, and being the artist.
Yeah, because you're never also fully objective with your own stuff, which
It's
I know.
Very hard to be, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, like I noticed I would become really attached to certain sounds and things that realistically probably maybe weren't the best fit. It was even down to things like I'm a really emotive singer. Like I put a lot of emotion into it just because of the nature of the songs that I sing. When I'm recording, it was just a bit too forceful. Like the pronunciation, I needed to kind of go a bit softer. Like I learned so much about how to build a track for consumption for people. So it's been amazing. So that's one of the biggest highlights. I've also just made loads of really sweet new connections with like photographers from where I'm from, poets, because obviously I think you've known I used to like go around with some Bristol based poets who I adore. We still work quite closely together. I've had good networks of people that we kind of support each other through this. So I've done photo shoots, I've written new songs, I've met new professionals. Because I literally was just harassing people, knowing that they had time to get back to me. And most of them I got completely ignored, or I got told.
But you don't lose anything from just like
no. And like
asking.
It's like you kind of go into it knowing instinctively that they probably won't bite at whatever you're putting out. But the few people that did, I'm really happy to now have. And literally it's only a couple, but it made a huge difference. So even though I was very sad and obviously didn't like not being in Bath or with my friends or whatever else, it was quite nice having that as like a little lift up, because working on tracks to think about one day putting into the world is a terrifying thought.
It is,
but it's very, very exciting at the same time. So it's quite nice.
There's that, I've always found personally when it comes to like releasing music, there's that little crossover moment in the few months before you're planning to release it, where it's like, okay, this is an actual entity that will be leaving me. It's like you're sending off your children to uni, and it's like terrifying and exciting at the same moment in that time, and you're like, I can't deal with this.
Because like, you're always picky with your music, even if I'm not releasing it. But now it's like it's gone a bit far. Like I do have to kind of stop myself, because obviously I'm going to release these beauties with that lovely man. I'm going to release them at some point, but I do find myself like, you second guess everything you're doing, which you shouldn't do, because obviously you just want to put them out there just so that you've done it and like you've felt like you've expressed yourself.
Also, another huge thing I find is releases of your music, there are moments in time that need to be released sort of in that ballpark of that time period, because otherwise there's no progression. If you keep putting things off, then you won't be at the same point where you were when that song was written anymore, and then you're like off kilter with your music.
Yeah, see, that's why I think I'll get it. The moment, obviously, I've got lockdown restrictions, so I
Yes.
can't quite finesse some of the things that need to be a little bit finessed.
Sure.
Because of the nature of the songs, I would like to have a certain amount of visuals there just to help some people maybe understand where I'm getting at and what I'm trying to say. So the moment that that is able to be carried out, I'm ready to put them out, but it's terrifying. I might like send them out and then just like go and hide and be like, oh my god, what have I done, what did I do? But yeah, it's very exciting, but it's my first go. I think all of the rest of you guys, you've all done a couple, so I keep asking you guys like, oh my god, what do I do, like, is this normal? Because it's quite scary doing your first round. Every single release is, but when it's your first one, I think you're very much like feeling a little bit more exposed. I think maybe
it's a bit more nerve-wracking, I think, the first time, because as you said, you get one shot at a first impression, don't you? Not to scare you, Lauren, but if you mess this up,
you like report to my song on Spotify like, this is absolute filth.
This is clearly a Birdie song.
It's just clearly is that Fast Cars by Tracy Chapman? No, like, it is, you only get one first impression, but I think when you're like us and you've done shitloads of you've done many open mics and you've gigged and I've been in so many bands, like so many awful.
You've got a lot of experience over the last few years of doing stuff.
So I think you kind of know when you know. Maybe this song won't resonate with me, or these two songs won't resonate with me when I'm older, maybe not. But I think I'll always have a little bit of feeling of at that point in time it was relevant. And at that point in time, that's
the most important thing, I think, is at the time. This is important. I think it's crazy to me to think like something that always goes back to me is like the Foo Fighters and Everlong. That song is like 20 years old. Like 30 years old. And they still like play it. Like, can you imagine something you wrote, you wrote, still being part of your set list 30 years later? That's something that blows my mind. I can't imagine that, the longevity of that.
No, I mean, that is me with Astronaut. I mean, I'm going to say it again like that. I was driving home yesterday, it came on, and I was like, do you know what? You wind your windows down, you get your fist in the air. I think it's a good sign, but also I know a couple of artists, like Ben Howard, for instance, when he goes on tour, he never does any of his older stuff ever. He's one of those artists,
the current moment,
only the new, because there's so much variation in what he's done that it's kind of like the sets are no longer applicable. And then the same kind of applies to me. Like, I was a folk artist. I couldn't really easily blend in folk with Bend Over. That would be a little bit.
Yes, it would change
like,
a bit.
It'd be like a kind of a whiplash, or like a really sharp gear change from like first to fifth. Like, you would just stall. Like, there's very little that like
you need some middle ground there to like ease.
I think now, like, I know this is the style that I'm going to build from. So even probably in even 3 years, will the sound change? Yes, most definitely. But I think it will always kind of tie into these two that were important to me now. So I also, it's like getting a tattoo. Like, you do think, will this mean something to me in 10 years? Maybe not so much, but
it's still a cool piece of art.
And it's on you forever. So we just have to live with it.
I think that's a good way to put it. Final question.
Cool.
You kind of touched on it, but how is 2021 shaping up to be for you? I know obviously can't do much at the moment, but with lockdown restrictions sort of easing off over the next few months and some venues booking shows, can we expect singles, EP, any gigs, tours?
So you can expect 2 singles, which I'm very excited for. I know it's been like years, but you can expect 2 singles. Awesome. I've got a couple of gigs booked. I'm going back to Reading because there's a lot going on there. And I want to go on tour, so I'm hoping to go trotting around the country with the Poetry guys, actually, because we do this beautiful setup where they do their poems, and there's a crossover because some of the poems are based off of songs that I've written and I sing the song. So that's going to be a little project that we are hoping to map out and just get out
Is that
And
a lot of like street performances then, or
I think that's a part of the plan, but we've always done like, you know, like I have like different like slam nights and stuff, but
Yeah.
not a slam night, it's not a competition, but basically just like poetry
yeah, I know what
based.
you mean, yeah.
And then I've infiltrated them for about 2 years. So it's always poetry nights, and it's like, and then this like girl with a guitar like waiting.
Just sneaking
And everyone's
around,
like,
yeah.
what's she gonna do? Like what? And then I come out. So yeah, it's me and a beautiful guy called Siley. And his poems are phenomenal. I've looked up to him since I was about 18. And we have done a good amount of gigs, poetry, whatever you call them. I don't know what this is. We've done a lot of
live events, I suppose.
we've made some noise. We've said some things. We've made some points. So we're hoping to redo that. And I want to gig in Moles soon. So
yes. Have you ever headlined Moles?
Never headlined Moles.
No. So maybe that will happen this year.
We can. I'll manifest it. I'll burn some sage and be like, please. Yeah. So that would be
awesome.
cool.
I think I speak for a lot of people in saying that finally we can hear some Lauren Walton music.
Yeah.
Like
hopefully.
on Spotify.
Or everyone's like, no. You'll get in the comments.
Stop.
God, not fast car again, just turn it off. Like, no. Yeah, I think like I'm very lucky to obviously have beautiful friends like all of you guys. I've not got fans, I've got friends who are
fans are friends. I think that's
but
until it becomes a stupid number of them, then
yeah, mates are mates. Like these are all people that I know. Like I'm definitely that person. It's just my mates. I'm forcing this on them. Like, please listen to my song.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see what everybody thinks. And I'm excited because when you release your music, I think you inherently feel represented and you kind of feel seen. And I've had really beautiful conversations with people and I've grown since making my own music. Mm-hmm. And I think that will hopefully only further develop as I put them in places where some other people could find them. Like I want people like me, it's like young women like me, to look at what I've done and hopefully just feel like somebody can kind of understand. Yeah. And that's all that I've ever tried to do. So fingers crossed I do get them out. I will. I won't be like 50, like, and here's Hardwired, everybody. Like I will do it. But yeah, I'm very, very excited.
Or what time frame are we looking on? Or is it still just like, as you said, kind of
waiting? All I've got left to do is the video.
Okay.
So if I find a sweet person who doesn't mind giving me some artistic direction, everything's under control, because the tracks, which are the most important bit to me, obviously as a musician, the most, I've spent 3 months blessed with that lovely bloke George, and they are done, finished, full stop on it, fit, like done. Watch me leave and be like, George, I've got to change everything. Then yeah, I've got to rewrite them, and he's just like, please.
This is the 5th time you've done this.
Like, I've known you only since November and I'm sick. I'm so no. So yeah, so that's all done. A really good friend of mine is doing the photography. We used to get drunk together when we were like 14. And she became a photographer, and I was like, that's really interesting because I need photos. So I've got it's just the last bit. And then I'm ready. Like, you know, I've not got any label obviously or anything like that. So there's no constraint and there's no pressure. Yeah. But I want it to be never perfect. Nothing's ever perfect. But I want to know that I've said as much as I possibly wanted to say within those 2 bodies of work. Of course. Yeah. So I always thought it would be around about now, but absolutely not.
Things take a bit longer nowadays, don't they?
Yeah, like I literally thought I would have had them out by now. But no. So I don't know. I think I'll see, maybe like around about July sort of time, maybe for the first one, hopefully. Ooh. It literally just depends on when the last little pieces like fall in. Yeah. I've used this experience as a way to try and meet as many cool people as I can. Yeah. Because all of the people that I've managed to collaborate with and work with and be around are actually quite important to me now. So I'd love it if I can just gain a couple more friends to like just join the gang, the squad, and then push them out and be like, there you go. And then everyone will be like, disgusting. I've always hated Tracy Chaplin. Always hated the Lord. Not a big fan of Bon Iver. And I'll be like, well, I tried.
You're on for the ride now. You can't escape.
Yeah, no, it's like literally strap in. Yeah.
Well, either way, I'm excited. And at least until then, we've now got a couple of songs that people can listen to and hopefully enjoy. So thanks so much for having a chat with me today.
Thank you very much for having me. First one.
Yeah, the first one. I will make sure that Lauren's social links are in the description, so you go check them out. Remember to like all those things, like, favorite, subscribe.
Oh, it's like smash that like, guys. Gonna get to 10K by the end of the day. Smash subscribe. That's
If we
what
get to
you just-
10K by the end of the day, I'll be impressed. I will.
Yeah.
And make sure you hit the bell for notifications. That's
Oh,
the
no.
new one, isn't it? That's the modern
I
one.
can't sit through this. Me just leave. Do you know what?
Yeah, just leave the meeting. Oh no. Awesome. Thanks so much. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the song.
You only want the parts of me that mirror your insides. Guess that I could try. And you say that I taste different when I'm coming to you, straight from the outside. You know that I'll never lie. Got a tricky situation in my head, emulating perfectly in your bed. Steadily it grows. Seems that you don't know all the funny situations in my head, coming to you live from my own bed. Steadily it grows. It seems that you don't know. When I look in the dark, you know I can see answers. It's like I'm falling from the sky. No need to ask me why. Where I'll go, where I'm coming from, you don't need answers. For you I'm born within this room, fell out selfishly by your shoes, and now I'll burn out. I lay out on the bed like I'm an exhibition that must be consumed. Baby, do you think that I'm crude? You're like the dirt under my nails that I would rather hide, conceal within myself. You know that I can't be held when I've got a funny situation in my head, emulating perfectly in your bed. Steadily it grows. Oh, and how I loathe all the tricky situations in my head, coming to you live from my own bed. Steadily it grows. It seems that now you know. When I look in the dark, you know I can see answers. No, it's like I'm falling from the sky. No need to ask me why. Where I'll go, where I'm coming from, you don't need answers. For you I'm born within this room, fell out selfishly by your shoes, and now I'll burn out. Well, I'm sorry, but I didn't know all the ways that I need control of every little detail of yours. In the palm of my hand, I'm so cold. I'm sorry that I let you go. You know I can't give up control, so watch me as I slowly fall down, but prop my head up and protect my crown. When I look in the dark, you know I can see answers. Like I'm falling from the sky. No need to ask me why. Where I'll go, where I'm coming from, you don't need answers. For you I'm born within this room, fell out selfishly by your shoes, and now I'll burn out.